Hey guys, this is Editing Alex. So I recorded the video today and I realized that it can go as a standalone, so I will be publishing this vlog in three parts where I will be analyzing each book separately and then I will kind of compare them at the end. So I am going to be publishing, like I said, in three parts, but for this part, in this particular video, as you probably can tell by the title, I am just analyzing Bolla, although I haven't addressed everything that I wanted to in the video. The book is really complex, has many layers, addresses particularities of social relations in Kosovo and outside of Kosovo, and I thought it was just brilliant, and not to do it disservice to kind of dumb it down and address all of these aspects. I only addressed several things from the book that particularly stood out for me. However, there is much more, and if you are someone who has read the book and who has loved the book or hated the book as well, I would really appreciate if we could continue on the conversation in the comments down below. But for now, I let you get on with the video, and thank you for being here. Hello, welcome back, or if you're new, welcome. My name is Alex. I am a PhD student at the Faculty of Social Sciences in Ljubljana, and I started this vlog to give some new perspective to novels that I read, or not really new perspective, but rather make it more accessible on YouTube, as I haven't seen that many booktubers who approach their reading material in the way that I would like to see, or that the way that I do here. So welcome back, and for this vlog, if you've seen my previous vlog, I'm doing 3 books, and all 3 books are in some way connected to the region where I come from. And the first book is by Pajtim Statovci. It's called Bolla. And the book is set partly in Kosovo, in Pristina. And the second part of the book is set in an unknown country. It's not set which one, although the main character who is narrating the story is speaking of this country and the struggles of living as a refugee in this country, and struggles with the language, with the culture, but the country and the language are never named. So I'll start by saying what actually the book is about. It's sort of a love story. It's following 2 main characters. Arsim, who is telling the story, he's Kosovo-Albanian, and the man that he meets, he's Serbian, studying in Kosovo medicine. His name is Miloš, and the book starts off with their relationship, how they meet, how they end up falling in love and starting a relationship in secret, of course. The book is taking time in the 90s, late 1990s, the first part, and then the second part is early 2000s. So Arsim is narrating the story, and we get to know him and his life, where he comes from, what kind of background he has. He's a student of literature at the time, but he's also married, and his wife is stay-at-home wife, while he is at the same time having an affair with this Serbian student in Pristina. And for me, it was really interesting to read how an author whose family comes from Kosovo, he's Kosovo Albanian, but was raised in Finland and writes in Finnish language, how well he writes the culture of this region, and especially the relations between the Serbs and the Albanians in Kosovo at the time, knowing that he was born, I think, in 92, if I'm not mistaken, and the story is taking place in 95. I have to say that I was really surprised by his approach to the narrative, especially the plot lines that he's using in order to develop the story. The character of Arsim is not very likable. He's not a good person per se. He's not a good man. You kind of feel for him while you're reading the novel. You feel for him because of the culture and the stigma perpetuated against the LGBT community, that he has to hide his true affection and love for the man that he's having an affair with, but at the same time he is very cruel and violent towards his wife and later towards his children as well. He doesn't really make good choices in his life, especially when it comes to his secret affairs that he engages in a country where they migrate to, which eventually leads to him being deported back to Kosovo. And the ending as well it was really mind-blowing to read the last, maybe, I don't know, like 50 pages. So I'll just read several quotes from these parts that I found very striking, especially when Statovci is describing family relations among the Albanians in Kosovo, like the culture of how women are treated, what is expected of women, what is expected of children from their parents, how this culture is transferred to a new country where they live, and the relations and socializing that they engage in there. I found it particularly interesting when he talks about the socializing patterns that they create in the new country, how they don't socialize with Albanians from Albania, but only socialize with Albanians from Kosovo, and how raising children is very challenging, not only because he really is a terrible father, but because of the way that children are perceived in this society, because they're refugees and they come from a war-torn country, and how the teachers really don't have any expectations of these children. And here I'm curious to know, I haven't read any interviews with the author or seen any interviews with him. I'm curious to know how much of this is based on his own experience living as a refugee child in Finland. So yeah, there are numerous important topics that he addresses, socio-political topics, that I found very, very on point and interesting, and the way he approaches them. But I will read one part here where he talks, just at the beginning, where he talks about his wife and how he actually decided to get married he says, Aisha and I were married young, in early summer 4 years ago, at the behest of my father, who later succumbed to liver disease. I was only 20, the sole child in my family. My father said Aisha was an exceptional woman, demure and obedient, intelligent despite her lack of education, skillful, well-mannered, and from a good family. I was promised there could be no wife more decent, no mother more dutiful than Aisha. And so at the dying wishes of my father, I said I would take her to be my wife, as long as her father consented and promised that Aisha would live up to the impeccable words that had been spoken about her. When Aisha's father was assured that I was an upstanding and trustworthy young man, that I didn't believe in the fist, that I would never commit adultery, that I would never lose so much as a dinar in gambling, and the bottle was no threat to me because, like my father, I understood the value of education and was about to enroll at the university, I was granted his permission to marry her. We wed each other for a simple reason, because it's better for people to live with someone than to live alone, because a man should have a woman by his side, and because a woman should have a man by her side too, and because a man, especially a man like me, is expected to reproduce and continue the family line. It's important for a man to have at least one son to whom he can leave his house, land, and money. For me, this paragraph is so striking of the position of women in Kosovo, not just Albanian women, but also Serbian women, and this is also the position of Serbian women in rural parts of Serbia, where women is not really asked what she wants. She's not included in this process of decision making. She's just an object that others impose their decision, like they just do with her whatever they want. And it was really heartbreaking to see how Aisha is trying to preserve the family and the relationship with her husband despite him being very abusive to her at the beginning. And I found it interesting that here he says, when Aisha's father was assured that I was an upstanding and trustworthy young man, that I didn't believe in the fist. Very soon, I don't know, we discover that he actually starts taking his frustration on his wife and beating her if she's asking questions that he thinks that she shouldn't ask, or if she is in some way in his eyes behaving the way she shouldn't, or some things that the first time when he actually beats her is when she tells him that she's pregnant, and he tells her that now it's not the time for her to be pregnant while he's engaging in this affair with Miloš. So her strength to kind of push through and to see beyond this abhorrent behavior that he engages in was something that really blew me away, and I tried to kind of understand her position and understand how she is reliant. She has no money, she has no financial security, she cannot go back to her family, and she's just pushing forward and trying to engage, trying to kind of push through these horrible moments in her life. Yeah, here, this part on page 20, he says, "Then for the first time ever, I slap her with the back of my hand. Her head jolts to the side and she lets out a hopeless whimper, and when with her eyes shut she asks for forgiveness, I learn that violence only begets more violence." further down the line, when they live abroad, when they move to a different country as refugees, he speaks of the violence or the abuse that he continues. He beats his children frequently. And he says here, I found it very interesting how he describes the reasoning behind this decision to beat his children. Just like Aisha, my children are afraid of me these days. To my sons Driton and Endrit and my daughter Drita, I am a distant, strange man. To be honest, I don't know exactly why I smacked them. From lack of anything better to do, or because I think they really deserve punishment for bad behavior at school, for impudence and misbehavior at the dinner table. Or is it because I think it's better to be afraid of something than not be afraid of anything? Is it because that's how I grew up, just like every Albanian I know, smacked around by my parents, and generally with good reason? I think to this day. You should fear your father's hands and run to your mother's arms. And when there is no longer a father to fear or a mother to run to, then you live in fear of illness and pain. Fear of rashes and infections, microbes, bacteria, fear of falling asleep. You fear authority, traffic, a lamp falling from the ceiling during the night. You fear everything, just like you feared your father. One raised with fear never learns to live without it. When you take away its cause, fear manifests, becoming its own consequence, a lingering suspicion, hallucinations, and weakening dreams. And when a fearful person loses the ability to let go of their fear, fear is then transfigured. It is the neighbor with a better parking space because this is his country, not yours. It is a dog walker nodding in your direction as you pass each other and squinting, not to say hello, but because you are a foreigner. A checkout assistant sighing while scanning the marked down sandwiches you have bought for the freezer, not out of boredom, but because you are an intruder behaving unfairly towards others. A manager shaking his head, not out of frustration, but because you don't understand instructions in their language. It's very interesting because we see that, well, at least the way I understood the reason behind him deciding to beat his children, first his wife, then his children. First, he's sort of frustrated because he cannot live truthfully and he has to live in hiding with a man that he's in love, and he takes out this frustration on his wife. And later, when they are living as refugees in a new country, he's taking out the frustrations not only because he has to be not truthful to himself because he's a gay man, but also because he is experiencing discrimination on every corner. And all of this frustration is kind of blown out. It grows inside him, and the only way he knows how to let it out is basically to just beat his family members, his children and his wife. While in the public he seems to be this very well behaved, kind of has a calm demeanor, he's very patient, he knows what to do. Inside his head you can see there's a turmoil, there's a storm, and he doesn't know how to calm it down. And the only way he deals with these internal dissatisfactions with himself and the life that he leads is by taking it out on his children and wife. I'm also going to read this last part and then I will conclude for this book. I really like how he talks about the position in society that foreigners have in this country, unknown country. And he talks about his children, as I mentioned before, how teachers treat the children, and how they are not given an opportunity, or they are not given the same chance as the children who come from this country. He says, Drita is a kind and well-behaved girl, but our sons get into fights at school almost every day. Their teachers tell me and Aisha that our sons' problems are all because we moved here from Kosovo. It's a difficult situation for a young child, they explain. Living between two languages, two cultures and religions can cause an identity crisis, and the children no longer know who they are because their entire world is formed from such conflicting customs and practices. They tell us flatly, as though informing us of an upcoming renovation. It irritates me and riles us because their words imply that our children's lives are somehow incomplete or lacking in some crucial respect. That because of us, their lives aren't healthy and full, because we moved here to escape the war. To their minds, the fact that our children speak several languages fluently, that they are acquainted with different customs and beliefs, apparently doesn't enrich our sons' lives. On the contrary, they see it as a strain. Their teachers think that our children don't need Albanian as much as the languages spoken and taught at school, that there isn't anything left behind in Kosovo without which they won't get along, or about which they should learn more than the subjects they teach. On occasion, I flick through their school books and notice there isn't any mention of Kosovo, not a single word about Yugoslavia, of the grand glittering life of affluence that people once enjoyed there. I feel like these two paragraphs don't even need to be commented on. He's such an eloquent writer. He puts basically all the thoughts that someone who has lived abroad, coming from this kind of background, has experienced, and I feel like these experiences can be very universal for many of us who were unfortunately forced to leave our country of origin because of war. So I'll just conclude here because already this video is very long, and then I will address the other two books when I'm done reading them. But for now, I will say Bolla it really surprised me how well written it is. I didn't come with any expectations for the book, and I was really blown away. I will not talk about the plot line or the ending, as I think that's something that should be left because it's a crucial part of the book. But I will just say this, that the character of Arsim really challenges a reader to think beyond these black and white understandings of one's identity, and to see really deep inside. Like, despite the fact that he's discriminated against because he's first a gay man and then a refugee, a migrant, at the same time the complexity of his character is such that he's not a really good person, and he makes a lot of bad decisions in his life, and how he actually is coming to terms with these decisions is another aspect that is tackled in the book. And I have to say that he's not very good at taking responsibility for his behavior that is harming others. So yeah, that's it for Bolla for now, and I'll let you know about the other two books when I finish them. So just like I said in the intro, now I'm doing the outro for the video. I just want to say thank you if you stuck around and watched the whole video. And I was really excited to read this book, and as you might have been able to see in my analysis, there there's so much more to discuss. But I've really enjoyed this book and I highly recommend it. And if you have read it, please leave a comment. I appreciate any kind of interaction. And I will see you in the next vlog. Bye!